All right, guys, today is the first day of STAAR prep, and we are going to start with quadratics. It's something y'all were decent at, and it's something that's pretty recent, so that's why we chose to start with this one. Okay, so let's first review some of the attributes. Okay, and I'm going to put an A by here because then we're going to go through some of the practice questions and label if it's an attribute question. All right, so label the following attributes of the parabola using the terms provided. Okay, so the vertex. Okay, the vertex is going to be this bottom point. Okay, it's basically where your parabola curves. So remember, your vertex can be a max or a min. If it's a max, it's going to look like a mountain. If it's a min, it's going to look like a U or a valley. Okay, so this one is a minimum, and it's the vertex. We're also going to practice writing the ordered pair because we're not very good at that. Remember, your x comes first and then your y. So the x is 2. The y is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be our vertex, and this one is a minimum because it's at the bottom of our parabola. All right, now we have our solutions, roots, and zeros. Remember, for those, we are looking at the x-axis. So the yellow is our solutions, roots, and zeros. You can use either of those words. You can also use x-intercepts. So I'm just going to use solutions. Okay, remember you look at the x-axis for your solutions, and we're also going to write those. Remember, this side's negative, this side of the axis is positive. So for this one, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, so negative 4, 0, because we didn't go up or down. This one will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so 8, 0. Okay, remember, normally you're going to see that written with your little squiggly bracket, and it'll say negative 4, 8, because it'll just focus on those x values. Okay, now the axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry, think of line of symmetry. It's always going to be a line, and it's the one that goes straight down the middle of your parabola. Okay, so that green line is our axis of symmetry. Okay, and it's going to have an equation. So it's going to be something equals. Since it's going through the x-axis, our axis of symmetry is x equals, and then the x value that it's going through. So it's going through 2. It also will match the x value of your vertex. So our equation for the axis of symmetry is x equals 2. Okay, the last one is our y-intercept. So for the y-intercept, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're looking at the y-axis, and you're looking to see where the graph crosses the y-axis. So it crosses right here at that point. So that's our y-intercept. Okay, remember, the y-intercept, that is the y value. So that's negative 5, so that's going to be the second one. It's not moving left and right, so it's 0, negative 5. Okay. Quadratics can have 3 options for their solutions. So the number of zeros is going to be how many times does the graph touch the x-axis. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight my x-axis. Remember, x is the horizontal one. And we're just going to label how many solutions based on 2, 1, or no. So this first one just touches it and goes back up. So that's going to be 1 solution. This one doesn't touch at all, so that's no solutions. This one crosses twice, so that's going to be 2 solutions. Okay. All right, domain. We've talked a lot about this. So domain is your x values, and it's read on a graph from left to right. Range is your y values, and it's read on a graph from bottom to top. Okay? Remember, if you see points or dots, then you need to use your inequalities. So remember, this one is less than or equal. This one would be greater than or equal. Okay, so basically a little trick. If your graph has 2 points at the end, you need 2 inequalities. 1 point equals 1 inequality. And then 2 arrows equals all real numbers. Okay, so before we go to the next section, we're going to look at the practice problems, and we're not going to work them. You can work them on your own, but we're going to label the ones that are based on attributes. So let's go ahead and look at those. So if we look at this first one, it's talking about range, so that's going to be an attribute problem. Okay, this next one is talking about the solution, so that's an attribute. Okay, the next one is going to be this one that talks about y-intercept. So that's an attribute. And on this one, you're just looking at the graph. So you're just look and decide what the y-intercept is. Okay, the next one is going to be this one that's talking about the domain. Okay, so this is an attribute. It's another look and decide. Okay, this one's talking about solutions. So your x-intercepts, so that's an attribute, and that's going to be done in Desmos. The next one that's an attribute is going to be this one that's asking for the vertex. That's another, just look at the graph and find the vertex. Okay, the next one is going to be this one that's asking for the axis of symmetry. So that's another attribute, and your look and decide. You're just looking and picking out the axis of symmetry. And then this last one is domain. So that's an attribute, and you're looking at the graph and finding the domain. Okay, just remember domain is X, so you can get rid of some of those answer choices. Okay, so those would be all the attribute problems. So all that vocabulary we just discussed would fall in that category. Okay, so next we're going to talk about transformations. Okay, for transformations, it's very important that you know what the quadratic parent function is because they don't always give it to you. So the quadratic parent function is going to be f of x equals x squared. Remember, f of x can also be written as y equals x squared. Okay, so if you see a transformation problem, and we'll use a T for transformation when we go through those problems, you're going to want to put this in Desmos more than likely. Okay, so f is the parent function, so h would be the new one, and we're just picking what happened. So this one flipped, so that is a reflection. Okay, and it's always going to be across the x-axis in Algebra 1. All right, this one, the original was the dotted line. So it's just moving up. So it's a vertical translation. Up. All right, this one, here's our dotted. You're looking at the vertex to see what happened. It just moved to the right. So that's a horizontal translation right. Okay, this one, my vertex didn't change. That's what tells me if it's a stretch or a compression. So since it got wider, that's going to be a vertical compression. Same thing on this one. The vertex didn't change, so that tells me it's a stretch or compression. So it's a vertical stretch because it got skinny. Okay, this one moved down. So that's a vertical translation down. And this one moved to the left, and that's horizontal. So that's a horizontal translation left. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we just did with attributes, and we're going to go through this and label the ones that are transformations. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so this one, it says the graph of a quadratic parent function was transformed. So that's going to be a transformation. Most transformations, you're going to use Desmos, and you're going to use 2 boxes because you're going to have to put 2 equations in there. Okay, let's see which other one. Okay, this one is also a transformation. Okay, here you're looking at the graph and deciding what the value of n is. This is another transformation. This is going to be done in Desmos, and you're going to use 2 boxes. And those are the only transformation problems. There's normally about 3 of them on each STAAR test. Okay? All right, so the next topic for quadratics is going to be what to do in Desmos. So there's 2 ways you can use Desmos for quadratics. All right? Desmos 2 lines are overlap. When we label the questions, we'll say D2O for overlap. Okay, the keywords that are going to tell you overlap are equivalent. Okay, that's going to be equal. So in Desmos, we're going to enter the original expression into box 1. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and use X's instead of M's. So we're going to go to Desmos in box 1. we're going to go ahead and enter that. So we're going to have, I'm going to go ahead and put y equals x squared minus 13x minus 30. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. Just press it once until you can see most of your graph. So we're just going to go until we can see these solutions. All right, so when we go back, now our answer choices are going to go in box 2 one at a time, okay? And you're going to see which one covers up that original graph. Again, we're going to use x's instead of m's. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out the m's with an x. And go to Desmos. So here we have x minus 15. Don't forget your parentheses. X plus 2. So the blue covered up the red completely. So it looks like we just have one graph. So that tells me that that's the one that's equivalent. So that would be F. Okay, so we're going to go through now and mark the ones that are overlap on those practice problems. So remember, the key word we're looking for is equivalent. So this number 11 would be a Desmos 2-box overlap. This one would be a Desmos 2-box overlap. And those are the only two in the practice problems that are going to be the overlaps. Okay, so the next section is going to be Desmos again, but it's going to be a 2 lines, and you're looking for where the line intersects the graph at the x-axis. So keywords here are going to be factors. So which expression is a factor? Okay, and we're going to use D2I to label those questions. So the way this works, we're going to put this part in box 1. So we're going to go ahead and every time I'm going to press the home button to start fresh, clear out what's in there. So we have y equals 18x squared minus 15x plus 2. Okay, so this time what we're looking for, we're going to put our answer choice in. This is going to graph a line. So these are going to go in box 2. You're looking for it to cross one of the solutions. So you're looking for our answer choice to cross one of these 2 points. Okay? So you're looking for it to cross the parabola at the x-axis. So for the first one, we have 3x minus 2. Okay, that one looks like it crosses there, so we would be good to go. If you're not sure, what I would do is go ahead and click the 2 points, the 2 solutions, and write those down. That way, if there's one that's really close, you know if it crosses. So our 2 solutions were 0.167 and 0.667. So if I go back, and we had y equals 3x minus 2, if I click on that black line, it crosses at 0.667. So that would be our answer, because notice, I'm going to go ahead and put these in just so y'all can see it. 9x minus 1, it crosses the graph, but it does not cross at the 0, even though it looks like it. So that wouldn't be it. Then we have x minus 2. That doesn't cross at all. Then we have 2x minus 1. That crosses our graph, but it doesn't cross at a solution, so that's not going to be it. It has to cross where your parabola crosses the x-axis. So the right answer on this one was A. Okay, so we're going to go through and label those questions. Okay, so it's going to be this one. And this one. Remember, the key word is going to be factor. And those are going to be the only two on that.